Fans, welcome to this week's Sports Chat. Several things to talk about. Campbell County suffered a pretty stinging loss to Powell. But the big news is Tuffy Shoop was actually back.
Actually threw two pretty nice touchdown passes. Go to, obviously look to probably the side and you'll see the videos listed there. Or look on the Volunteer Times webpage and you'll see the video page. But Tuffy had an over 40-yard touchdown pass to Isaac Phillips.
It actually had 49, almost 50 yard. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the only time Powell has trailed all year.
It's the opening drive of the game. Cougars marched it down the field, tossed a long touchdown, got up 7-0. And then Powell scored the next 55 points or so.
Right. The thing about it is, it was not Deshaun Mobley that scored him. The Cougar defense shut him down.
Not the only team that held him under 100 yards all season. Cougars got another touchdown pass from Tuffy, a 31-yarder to Matt Marshall.
Joe Peak blocked an extra point, and he was not expected to return this season after an injury in the AC game. He's back.
So, Powell's just really exceptionally good. They're ranked number 3 in the state. Got as good a shot as either of the top two at winning the state title this year and barring some kind of upset.
Especially now that we see that Mobley is not their only offensive weapon.
Well, I understand their quarterback possibly is signed with Vanderbilt. But I'm not 100% certain about that. That's what we've heard.
Well, I would
Vanderbilt, I should say, since signing days.
I would say more than likely we will see that Powell quarterback at a top school.
He can definitely run, and he actually looked pretty decent throwing the ball.
He actually has a good arm. I remember.
Nice looking touchdown pass.
I've seen several highlights of him over the year.
But Powell's a really good team. What I understand, they start 22 seniors.
Yeah.
11 on offense, 11 on defense.
From what we were listening, it was their senior night, and so the announcer was talking before the game, and he unless I misheard him, he said that everyone starting was a senior that night.
But
they looked good.
He did have they got a lot of good backups too, and a lot of good underclassmen. Powell's gonna be a strong team for years to come. But Campbell County, like I said, that first drive looked impressive. They actually come up with a big shot on Mobley on his first carry of the game.
It was actually a really good kickoff return to set it up.
Ethan Miller, so he had a big kickoff return, got us out to the 50. A couple of plays later, Tuffy with a nice touchdown pass in the post pattern. I think both touchdowns were scored with nice post patterns. After that, Powell was really good, and it was going to be a hard night no matter what. And it ended up getting a very lopsided score, of course. Powell actually pretty much rested their stars in the second half. Only scored 14.
Mobley didn't even dress for the second half.
And it's just one of those games that you're going to have against a Powell, and we may have another one similar to that coming against Oak Ridge, because Oak Ridge, now that they're back healthy again, is just dominating everybody. They stomped all over. Was it Carnes or Hardin Valley? I think it was Hardin Valley.
It was Hardin Valley this week because Carnes beat Anderson County in a convincing fashion this week.
They just rolled over Hardin Valley, something like 48-7. So that Oak Ridge is going to be a tough one coming up too. But in between there, you got the Halls game coming up,
which also happens to be the Volunteer Times Nacho Tailgate Party.
Hopefully very winnable game against Halls. I don't know how they did this week.
I think they may have been off this week. I never saw a Halls score this week.
I know they only have one win this year, and it's over Clinton, who's just the worst team in the district. So this is a battle between Campbell County and Halls. You're playing to finish ahead of Halls in the district if you can get this win.
But it's kind of odd saying that Clinton is the worst team in the district.
I remember when Clinton under Jimmy Gaylor was just a dominating powerhouse that gave Oak Ridge. And this was Oak Ridge under Joe Gaddis, which was also a dominating power. Those two teams battled it out for the top of the district every year.
Right.
Everybody else fought for those second two playoff spots.
And and also in the game, I can tell you, Matt Price caught a couple of really nice punts.
He did. Nathan Rugall, he apparently is, and he's had some good punts this year. Apparently he punts really well in practice. I don't know if they were trying to keep it away from the return man, which it turned out they needed to be kicking it to him more often.
In the second quarter there, muff punts by Powell
actually gave us
Campbell County's second touchdown of the game.
It gave us 2 big gains actually.
It was the strangest thing. I mean, it's sort of a continuation of a drive, but I guess since the ball technically changed hands, it wasn't. But it was like Campbell County had a long drive to score the touchdown in the second one, but they punted twice during the drive.
It was actually 3 short drives in a row.
And they, they went, kept the ball, punted, the guy muffed it, Campbell County recovered, and the same thing happened again the next time they went to punt. He muffed to it, or they told him out after that. But it's just one of those games where it was hard to get anything going, and really in the second half, you're pretty much trying to keep your players healthy for next week against Howell, which is a much more winnable game when you're already down. Obviously, you're not going to beat Powell when you're down by 50 points or 40-something points, whatever it was at the time. And just like I say, you got to focus on Howells now. The areas you can get better, as Luke mentioned, you got to get better at punting. Missed another extra point, which is the first one we've missed in a while. That's pretty good. And a few fumbles. I'm sure the Prices and the other coaches are working on ball security this week.
Yeah, and I hope they're going to cover some tackling fundamentals too. And we mentioned it before. There's a lot of shoulder tackling, but not a lot of wrapping. And really, especially when you're playing people like Powell, I mean, you got to wrap up.
And here's the crazy thing. In fact, if you'll look at the volunteer times right now, there's a picture of them stopping Deshaun Mobley where they had him wrapped up.
Oh yeah, they wrapped up well on Deshaun. I mean, it's just the quarterback. He busted those big plays. I guess I don't know if they were not expecting him to be quite that athletic. And thinking he's just a quarterback, you can crash into him, knock him down.
He's been such a non-factor this year because Mobley's been so dominating, and neither of them have really played second halves.
Yeah.
I know they usually do 40 in the first half alone in most of their games.
One of the things that surprised me about the Powell is their lack of kicking game. They did not have a very good kickoff. Or they missed several extra points.
Right, because Ethan Miller, as a return man, is not one of the deep backs. He's one of the middle line.
Right.
Their kicks for some reason were really low. His extra points, I think he only missed one in the game actually, but
I think he missed 2.
All of them were just really low and almost misses.
Yeah. Well, I mean he.
And we actually probably should have blocked several of them. They were barely clearing the bar.
Yeah, right.
And he just, he didn't have to punt at all in the game, so I don't know how their punting game is. I mean, obviously their kick return game wasn't very good because they muffed 2 punts. It's just, they're so excellent on offense and defense both and so fast that there just wasn't much to do with it. Even, I guess the big thing about it, their huge defensive line. Their defensive line, they have several guys who are 6'2", 6'3", 275 or 280.
That's a lot of linemen. And
they're just hard to block. I mean, we actually handled their pressure reasonably well, and we had some guys open during the night, and if you watch the interview with Coach Price, he was talking about it. It's I believe 7-7. We got the ball, we're moving it down the field, we're near midfield. And complete an 8 or 9 yard pass that would get a first down, and we fumble and lose the fumble. And their quarterback runs almost the next play in for a touchdown from that spot. So, we looked like we were going to be moving the ball well against them, and we had things going our way. And once that fumble happened, the team kind of got its head down and played a little scared for a while. And then, it was just Powell was like a giant wave crashing over you at that point. But I expect those to be corrected. I think you come out for the Halls game. I know it's going to probably be a little blustering cold, which that's good football weather to me.
There's going to be free nachos in the parking lot.
Nachos, yeah. But you get there mainly and stay for the game, watch the Cougars, cheer them on, because this is the best chance. You only got 2 games left, and this is their last home game. It's senior night.
It's the last chance to see these seniors play at home. Yeah. There's some impressive seniors. Tuffy Shoot alone is worth coming to see off.
Yeah. Every one of them,
But they're all great.
And you're gonna, how many times does Campbell County actually have a win on senior night?
Not often.
Probably not a half a dozen times in the last 20 years. Maybe not a half a dozen times in school history, to be honest with you. And this is a very good shot to have a win on senior night. Because, frankly, sometimes senior night's Oak Ridge.
Right.
Next year it probably will be.
Next year senior night will be Oak Ridge because
that'll be pretty tough.
Yeah. That's how the cycle falls.
So you got a good
district scheduling's done by a draw.
You got a good shot of coming out, watching a win for senior night. So come out and watch it. And like I say, the Cougars, they get better every week, even if it's not showing up on the scoreboard, because the level of team they're playing. But they're doing things right. The plays are in the right place, and it's just little things like holding on to the ball and making the right tackle that we're still eluding them a little bit sometimes.
I got to touch on something too, and I'm going to touch on it much more in my column this week. Right before halftime, I went up to the stands to talk to Kelly Jones and some other people. And there's these bleacher coaches that think they have all the answers to football. Oh, we can't do this card system. This don't work. This is, you get all these penalties. I actually think this game is the first away game I remember us getting.
Well, we had some illegal procedure penalties. This was the first game that we had any offensive line penalties to speak of for the most part this year.
This system obviously works.
This system beat Powell in the playoffs last year.
Exactly.
So far, honestly, the penalties we've had on the getting the game started actually has honestly, and not to hit on him because he's been a good center, but when he looks over a couple times, his hand has slipped, and that's when they throw the flag.
Well, and here's an interesting caveat on that for this game. Dylan Cornute got hurt on the opening drive. That's the center. Patrick Wright, who is a freshman, played center the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So that's where you got that.
He's been a good center, and he's kept that under control. But it does happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Listen, it's just what I'll say. I'm bad enough to fuss during football games, especially, but there's a reason that the coaches are on the sidelines and in the press box, and there's a reason that you're on the bleachers.
Yeah.
And it's because they choose to do this and actually have people willing to pay them to do it. My God, if somebody would pay me to go and coach at UT or somewhere, I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Me too.
But, you think you know this and you think you know that when you watch a football game. And some things are obvious, but something like that, that's a system that works, and that's a system. Who used the cards yesterday?
Who's that?
The Auburn Tigers. Who used them last year?
Who's that?
The Auburn Tigers. You know what Auburn did last year?
Won a national title.
13-0 in the national title, and I think they're 6-1 this year. They won 19.
And more importantly, you know what Auburn did yesterday? Beat the Florida Gators.
Beat Florida.
So Auburn, those cards are just what people are using now, and it works. It works for the prices. It works. It's working. I'm sitting here watching this amazing thing, and others ain't working. Do people remember what it was like the last few years at Campbell County?
It was quite the flex bone offense.
Scoring was a chore the last few years.
Yeah.
Do you think we would have scored at Powell in the last couple of seasons before this one?
I don't think so.
I don't think we would have scored
I
points.
don't think so.
I think there's a lot of games we scored in this year. I don't think we would have scored a point in. If we could get a touchdown on the board the last couple of years, it was a pretty big accomplishment.
Yeah.
And and if you did get a touchdown, it's because you ran the ball 40 times and took up 14 minutes to do it, or got a lucky play. But this offense works. We've got to see Campbell County score over 20 points several times this season. That may not have happened since the year they went to the playoffs, and even that year,
those were still a lot of low-scoring games.
Yeah, they had a good defense, and would hope Chris Johnson broke a long run, and you get up 13-7 or something, and win the game that way. But this offensive scoring, it's already set records this year. Tubby Shoots has set records this year.
And it actually broke his coach's records this year.
This is a good offense. It works. The defense is playing better than I thought. Like I said, we did good against Mobley, and we couldn't get the quarterback under control. Powell just has elite athletes that we don't have right now.
In fact, you're looking at two Division I athletes in the backfield. If McFetridge is a Vanderbilt commitment, after talking it over earlier, I'm pretty sure earlier I remember when he made the commitment to Vandy.
I'll just say that, I mean, until Campbell County actually produces more elite athletes, you're going to see that happen sometime. And it's not the coaches. You can't coach somebody to go out and run a 4.3 or 4.40, and you can't coach somebody to be 6'3" and 295 pounds and athletic. You just can't coach that. You can teach them technique and hope that your technique will beat that athleticism, and it will sometimes. But most of the time, speed and athleticism is going to win out. That's why you see the SEC win national title after national title after national title. Our 6'3" and 280 pound guy is a much better and faster athlete than the Big Ten 6'4", 300 pound guy. And that's just what's going to happen in football games. It's not the system. The system works fine. It worked at Anderson County last year. It worked at Anderson County for several years.
Basically, he's worked at Wartburg for the last couple of years.
They have better athletes than we do at Anderson County to run it. And Wartburg has better athletes for the scale of teams that they play each week.
Speaking of Wartburg, they beat Jellicoe this week.
Wartburg's turned it around a lot after losing their quarterback for the season earlier in the year. They've struggled this year. Of course, Jellicoe's struggled mightily this year. I mean, here's the thing about Wartburg. They play in that division with some powerful football teams.
2 top 10 teams.
Right.
And
in the same county as them, too.
I mean,
Sunbright and Coalfield are their county rivals.
They have to play a hard schedule.
They have to play Oneida.
And
have to play Oliver Springs.
With the players they lost, I think they did a fine job this season. And probably not what Coach Ellison wanted at the start of the season, but when you lose your quarterback and he was that much of their offense and the system changes they had to make it, I think they've done a fine job.
Now, on the middle school level, playoffs are this Thursday night. Jacksboro will once again be at home against Maynardville.
And once again, we'll take the trip to Oneida.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll be honest, I feel sorry for Lafayette to have to play them back to back, traveling to Oneida.
You never write anything off because anything can happen in football.
Well, that's true.
I would be exceptionally surprised if Lafayette won that game.
It's just, I'm sure those kids played hard, but
and you know what?
It's just the kids on Oneida's team is just that good.
Let's give Lafayette credit where it's due. They did better against Oneida than Jacksboro did.
Yeah. Oneida has big, fast kids that look like they should be in high school.
Oh yeah.
In the same vein, I'm not writing anything off before the game's played. Anything could happen. I'll be exceptionally surprised if Oneida does not win the title here in a couple of weeks down at Anderson County High School.
Yeah.
They're just on that level, And when you got kids that literally are my size or bigger going against average middle school kids, it's not pretty for the other team.
You can say it right now. Look at Austin Raines and Dylan Mills from Jacksboro. Those are big middle school kids.
Those are pretty big middle school kids. And when they're trying to run up against kids that are twice as big as them,
as big as Austin usually stands out, he looked on par with their skill players size-wise.
Yeah, that running back they have is a monster. He literally looks like Chris DeMott does right now.
He's bigger than DeMott.
Yeah, he's a good 2-3 inches tall.
He was 6'2" or 6. He was towering over coaches and everybody. And their line is huge. Everybody on their team was as big as the biggest players on the Jacksboro team, or bigger.
And they execute that single wing to perfection.
When you got a bulldozer rolling down the field, honestly, it wouldn't matter what offense they ran, as long as they ran in the right direction. They could run quarterback sneaks all the way down the field for 7 or 8 yards at a time. You couldn't stop them. That's just how powerful they are. They almost basically pick the other team up and push it down the field. Mm-hmm. That's why they're undefeated and probably have not played a game that I know of within 28 points of anybody this year.
Oh, I'm sure. Because it turns out there were score reports we were getting that them in Maynardville were reversed. They were just murdering Maynardville.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense.
I'm not sure they wouldn't beat Union County High School.
I don't figure they could compete with the high schools, because they have high school size players.
I'd say this bodes well for their high school.
Which is ironic that their high school runs the spread, and they run the single wing. But once you convert those players to that, if the fundamentals are there, the rest is
right.
Is able to be put in place.
You know, come out and support Jacksboro, drive over to Oneida and watch the fall if you're going to be there Friday night for the Cougar game. It's the last week of home football. We've got.
Yeah, football season never lasts long enough, especially on the middle and high school levels.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it. We're looking at the end, but I mean, really.
And since Jacksboro no longer hosts the playoffs, like I said, they're at Anderson County now for middle school level. This is it for in-county football.
That's right.
Other than possibly Jellicoe. We'll have a chance to see if Jellicoe's got a game at home.
And the big Powder Puff game coming up.
There is a Powder Puff.
Powder Puff game on October 31st. I'm looking forward to that. Apparently there's going to be a punting display by our friend Sarah, the excellent Australian exchange student who can really boom the kicks.
She's got quite the play.
She did speak of wanting to teach kicking to these American kickers.
She does feel that American kickers are inferior and that she could teach them all a thing or two.
I wish she would, because we need some in-game punting.
So, yeah.
Well, fans, we're going to wrap up this segment. We'll be right back talking about college and pros.